Okay, looks like we're live right now. Yeah.
All right.
Hello, welcome to everyone to another episode of Roll Per Second podcast. This one is really special because we're doing it like with video and stuff. we're streaming right now live on Facebook. Hey, my dog also is here, and we got like a very special guest, the very talented and iconic Zak Smith. Hello, Zach.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty cool, pretty cool. Really glad to have you here because it's been crazy. It's been crazy to have this conversation with you. I talked to you earlier about some stuff that we're gonna address on this on this podcast or this video, whatever you want to call it, this episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
And before we start, I need to actually tell everyone that English is not my main language, so I'm really sorry about any weird sounds that I make. I'm gonna try my best to actually uh, speak it out. So, first of all, thank you, Zach, for coming to this episode of Roll Per Second. I'm really glad to have you here. It's been, I don't know if this is like your first like public talk in a while. I don't know.
It is, and thank you. And I'm sorry to everybody in Mexico City that I don't speak very good Spanish or any Spanish at all, really. So I will say all my Spanish. En mi casa somos nueve, muy felices, nunca tristes. That's all I learned in Spanish class. So I apologize for forcing you guys to listen in English or translation.
No, it's cool. I mean, I'm gonna talk to you on your main language, on your native language, and
Good.
then and then I'm gonna like make another episode talking about all the gaming stuff and all the stuff we just chat here.
Cool.
So that's cool. Before we start, so yeah, we just take out like the language and stuff, and I was talking to you early like this morning and stuff because the making of this episode, it was really hard for me because I got like a very negative uh, response from the public. Like I tried to promote this episode on a couple of groups and a couple of platforms and stuff, and I got like kicked out from many groups. I got like very hateful comments and stuff, and that just at first it was like I feel kind of bad about it, but then I just realized that I wanted to do it even more. Like I hate censorship, and I don't want I don't want my podcast to be like that. Like I can speak for myself or for whatever people come to my show. So I needed to say that before we start, and let's start with who is Zach Smith. What can you tell me about you, Zach? Because people in Mexico maybe don't know you really well. So
Okay. Well, I'm a painter mostly. I make paintings. That's my job. So once in a while, I make a pornographic film as an actor, um, and but also as a side thing for about since 2011 or 12, I've made games, role playing games, indie. Mostly supplements, like things that you would use to play games like Dungeons and Dragons, old school games, but mostly independent, and weirder, and kind of more handmade than what you would get out of Wizards of the Coast. I did work for Wizards of the Coast for a little while, briefly, as a consultant, and I worked on Vampire, which people in Mexico play a little
oh,
bit, and,
nice.
I worked on Vampire. I worked on D&D, but mostly I'm known for my own stuff. I have a horror game coming out that has a lot of ideas that we did not end up using in Vampire, called Demon City. It is taking forever to come out because my graphic designer is very good. And the problem with very good graphic designers in role-playing games is they're used to being paid very well to work quickly, and when they're paid in role-playing games, they are not paid as much. They
Well,
still want to do a good job, and so they work very slowly. But it looks it's very exciting to work on that game because I make a drawing or write something, I give it to him, and it comes back looking 30 times better because of the way that he designed it. So if anybody's waiting for Demon City, it'll be worth it. So yeah, I make little role playing games.
Yeah, so Zach is very well known because he's an Annie Award. Many of his books are award winning. One of them, I believe, is very iconic. Is Bornheim, the Complete City Kit. It's just such a good book. If you don't have it, you need to look for it and just have it in your table. I don't believe it's just like D&D focus because you can use it in many ways, like in many settings and stuff. Just changing a little bit here and there. So it's a really cool book. You can search it out and many others. So Zach, the work from Zach is like personally I believe is really good. So you can find it on your blog. You can find maybe like the links and stuff, or where they can find it. Just
Yeah. Um, Basically, if you go to my blog, I have a little link in the corner, at least on on a computer setting, which is just as the store, and you can see the whole bunch of things I put out like every couple days, little things, and then at the bottom the sort of bigger
uh,
products you can get on PDF from me,
uh,
and if you, I can tell you where the stores are that sell them, and I can tell you where you can get hard copies and stuff if you don't know how to find them otherwise. Um, yeah.
yeah. So that is basically for the people who don't know who Zach is. So there you have a little introduction from himself, and then I wanted to take this out like just from the start of this episode of this interview with Zach, and let's just talk a little bit about what are you doing, like what are you up to since the Ragnarok just break loose. We all know the situation you've been through. It's a very discussed one. It's like there's many people who got some mixed feelings about you and the recent stuff that it happened between you and it was your wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't want anyone to think of this in a vague way. You know, this is very specific. When I started blogging, I was married, and one of the reasons that we started playing games so much is because my wife was very sick, and so it was a good way to have people come to the house, and we could all hang out there. And she's very sick, and kind of got sicker and sicker while we were married, and since I was involved in porn, um, and because I was very outspoken about the importance of like making the community safe for people to make whatever kind of thing they want and have a real discussion if it offended or hurt people, like have a real conversation about how to, if that's bad, like how do we fix it. And that's not really what gamers want to do. Gamers want to complain to each other and kind of bullshit, like you will have a conversation at your store about a game that people don't like, and nobody goes, you should write to the company and tell them your problems and then try to fix it. No, they want to hang out at the store and complain. So I was like, a lot of new people were coming up and in that community, and I felt like coming from another field, a creative field, where I was like, these are creative people who are just getting to make games for the first time.
yeah,
The conversation was really shitty, and I tried to improve it by calling out people being shitheads. And for 10 years, this caused a tremendous amount of harassment. And then when my wife and I finally got divorced, things seemed like they were okay for 2 years. And then most of our friends agree has gone, she's changed something, like whatever I say is like legally important. So
no,
but
yeah,
she has
I
a,
get it.
she has a history of mental illness that she will admit to. She's told me about it. When we first met, she was like, I have borderline personality disorder. Here's an email with all the links to what it's about. I don't know if that's still her diagnosis, but she's got issues and she was in treatment. And when we got divorced, it was Me Too time. And so eventually she was like, well, I guess I'll Me Too him. And so she while the people who know us in real life, almost every single person was like, "This is terrible. What's happening to you, Zach? Your ex-wife is, or your wife is. That's not good." You know, like they took my side. They've written
Yeah.
things for the court on my side. But she tapped into these people from the gaming world who had been harassing me for 10 years. And so between them and all the people who were kind of in my scene but were just sick of hearing about all the drama, they were like, "God, we can get rid of this guy. I'm tired of hearing about him. I'm tired of my work
And
being
it was
next to his
like
drama."
a perfect opportunity for them, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to simplify things because I think that's what bad people do.
yeah,
There were some people who were pretty sure this was bullshit, but didn't want to swim too close to a drowning man. There were some people who they always hated me. Uh, there were some people who were like, I don't want to deal with it. And there were some people who did it for their career to just be in a better, like, they don't want to be near someone who's controversial. And
like,
some people who were really sick of me calling people out on their bullshit because they wanted to be nerdy gamers online complaining at each other all the time. Like, that was their fun. So there was a big controversy, and you will go, anyone who's watching this will Google if they care, and they will find out a bunch of shit, and it will conflict. And my whole thing was, if I'm accused of crimes, I want an investigation. I
yeah.
think this is fair. This is, you don't have to take my side, but you must investigate.
You,
And
you,
that's the word, investigate. So
yeah.
I was, you'll know, everybody knows, the fans, that when you try to ask questions and be like, how come this doesn't line up with that? Why do you think this happened and not this? The people just change the subject. And so, because when they kicked a lot of those fans off of those forums, so I can't resolve it within the tiny independent game community. So I had to take people to court. So that's, so I had to sue people.
Yeah,
I
that's
want,
like a
you know,
big step, you know, taking somebody to the court is like shit is
yeah,
getting real. Like,
for
wow.
yeah, for months. I think the crazy thing, for months I tried not to. I was like, this is a well, for years I tried not to. I contacted people individually and I'm like, hi, I'm an adult, you're an adult, we're both working in the same business. Can you please, your friend is saying crazy things which could hurt people. Can we talk about this? And nerds hate conflict and they hate confrontation. So they didn't know how to deal with this. Like, and you know this because I don't know if you've been to many conventions. I bet you have because you're in Mexico City, right? But
You know what? The conventions that I actually went to,
yeah,
we were making them. Like,
yeah,
it's a
that's
pretty
great.
small community here. Like board gaming, wargaming, tabletop RPGs and stuff. It's just very small. So we're trying to like grow it up in a very like healthy way because we don't want this kind of stuff to be happening to like everybody. We don't want like conflicts on people making RPGs and stuff because we want to grow up together so we can support each other. You know?
Well, here's the good news. No matter how shitty people are to you online, they're all scared of real life talking.
Yeah.
So they will never yell at you at your convention. They will never say anything. And this is kind of, it's good for the person running the convention, but it's kind of unhealthy for the community online because I have people I knew for years who like were like, they didn't like something I did 2 years ago to their neurotic friend who like was kind of being a dick. Instead of doing what we're doing now, which is like have a video chat and go, hi, like you have a drink, I'll have a drink, and let's talk about this problem like you would in a real way with your friends. And this is before like wild accusations. This is just interpersonal stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, they would write a blog post to 1,000 people. And like that isn't how any grown-up resolves any real conflict. So I would contact people and be like, hi, can we talk about your, like, this is stupid and we're grown-ups, let's talk about this. And they would see that as threatening immediately because they're nerds, they're anxious, they don't know how to deal with that, and that made everything worse. And so then when what should have just been a divorce, like every divorce is like two people argue, like say horrible things about each other, sometimes on Facebook. What should have just been a divorce became this bomb where all of these
Yeah.
people who had like some, oh, I don't like how you treated Austin on the 15th of May in 2013. I was like, well, then, say something. Like, I'm a person. But, and so I would emphasize if you are trying to grow a community, investigation, telling the truth, making sure people apologize when they do something wrong, and always give them that option.
That
Don't
is,
inflict anything on, like, there's a recent conflict that had nothing to do with me, where someone had a problem with another game, and they got on Twitter and they were like, here are all the problems with this game, and it won awards, and we hate this person. And it was like, you seriously aren't trying to fix problems.
you know
If you
what,
were trying to
Zach?
fix problems, you would write to the author
Yeah.
and go, it's a tiny scene. Like, hi, I'm this person. Like, these are some things I feel like you could have done better. Like, it didn't read very well to me. And that person who wrote the thing could have been like, yeah, let's talk about that, you know? But as long as nerds are addicted to, they want to be angry to each other online and be like, oh, the new Wolverine movie is the worst thing I've ever seen in my whole life. As long as that's your idea of fun, we're all fucked,
Yeah,
you know?
you know
And
what?
that's
One of the reasons that I wanted to do this interview is because you haven't, like, you literally were given a chance to talk. You were just like shut down, and I just experienced that early this morning when I tried to post this on the groups, and I got banned, and I got like tons of shit thrown at me because I was having you on the show, and that's not cool. Everyone should have a chance to talk, to say whatever they think and stuff. I don't believe in censorship. That is not cool. And but you know what? Like, there's one thing that I'm really curious about is, okay, we all know this conflict. Shit went real. It's just like flood every post, every community. We all know what is going on that side. But what I'm really interested is on the side of your work, because your work, like your RPG work, just got destroyed. Like, nobody wants to do anything with you. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to work with you. So how 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 do you deal with all this? Like how, I can't imagine. I can't imagine like being just forced out, like forced out of all the community of all your work.
I think for this is a strange thing. For people like you who know the work, your concern is the work, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like what
totally.
happens to this when Red and Pleasant Land get a second edition, things like that. For me, my concern is my life, you know? Like I'm so busy trying to make sure that the people who participated in this don't hurt anyone else and don't hurt my friends, or Mandy doesn't hurt the people that were close to her, uh, and that like this is my main concern. The work will always get made. Like only two things can happen. I succeed in like proving like I'm innocent, and then whatever work I'm making during this time, people will see it. Or I fail and I'm over and canceled, and there'll be all this work that anyone who sees me, like they'll know, eventually it'll be there. Like if anyone knows, because eventually the truth will come out after I'm dead, maybe, but it'll come out. And so the work will, if the work has any value, people will, like, there's a curiosity about it. Like I sold a copy of Red and Pleasant Land for $2,000 this morning. I
Damn.
don't think like that. Maybe if I only have like a tiny amount of fans, but they value that work.
Yeah.
And if something were to happen to me, like they would still be like, okay, well now the money doesn't go to him because he's dead. Let's take a look at the work. Like it will always. I'm not worried about the work at all. Like it's like that's the least of my worries. Like my worries is, and this I think is very, and this is the weirdest part about it. Everyone knows intellectually, including you, right? Everyone knows that the most important thing is people's real lives. But fans really only get active and worried and pay a lot of attention when the work is at stake. Like it's a weird, it's like if you are like if someone loves your work, then they are a little bit more like, is this true? Whereas if they kind of don't like your work, they're like, I don't even know who that guy was. Fuck it. And if
Yeah.
there's no new work, they're like, well, there was no new work. But it's like making new work reminds people that like it's a, like there's something there, they have a stake in it. And that's a really difficult thing to wrap our head around if you're the victim
Yeah.
of the harassment, because for me it's about my life. People are like, when's the next Cube World coming out? And I'm like, it's coming out, bro. Like, I have nothing to do but talk to lawyers and draw goblins, you know, like,
Damn.
so it's gonna happen. But it's just that is it, and it's a funny paradox because people,
You know
they're
what?
not monsters, like they know, you know,
I
but
was
that's, you know.
I was really concerned because when I read all this stuff, like when it came out, everyone was like telling that I'm gonna burn my Zak Smith books and fuck him and whatever, and I was worried, like, is he not going to work in anything new? Because I really love his work, you know. Um, no offense, Zach. I mean, no offense, no
Right.
offense. Like, but your private life, like your personal life, I don't care about it. Like, I just care about
Sure.
your work, you know. Like on this, how to put it, like being a client, you know, like that was my first approach with you. Like, I bought your book, I really like it, I really like your work. I don't care
Yeah.
what you're doing with your real life, you know. Like that's like a separate point. Like you don't have to mix shit up, and people do. Like, people hate you because your
Yeah.
personal life was getting out of control or whatever, but your work should not be affected by that. I mean, that's my point of view. But
Sure, but you know, like you're creating a convention, right? You're creating a scene, right? If you have
yeah,
a bookstore,
yeah,
eventually you have a problem where the work gives money or power to someone that you know might do something bad. And I think in the end of the, like, I think people are right to worry. Like, they should, if I did all the stuff that those people said I did, I'm a monster and they should kill me. Like, like they should. If this was true, I'm not, James, my publisher, my old publisher, James Radji, would be like,
oh,
I don't care if
so
you're,
you're
yeah,
not working anymore with Raggy.
no. But
Oh man,
oh no, at the end, of, like, he
that
was
one
like,
hurt me. That one hurt me.
he was very much like, I don't. His first reaction in the first week, because his, like, basically people within his company were like helping my ex. Like, it was really terrible situation for him, and he was like, I don't know, but his attitude, and so he like had to drop me basically out of pressure, basically to save his. He thought he had to do it to save his skin, even though he kept making. He sold more of my stuff than ever, of course, but
Yeah,
that's how these
I
go.
remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
He actually said to the public, like, Sack books are selling like crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, a part of that is bad. Like, in or when someone does commit a real crime, their sales do go up, and that is a bad thing that shouldn't happen. But I didn't do anything in this case, so but his attitude is different than mine. His attitude maybe is like yours, which is like, I would publish Charles Manson. The work is important to me.
Yeah,
My attitude
it's
is
art.
different. To me, if I can punish a bad person, like in who did real bad things in real life by taking money away from them legally, I think that's good. Like, to me, people's real lives are. I'm maybe the work should be available in some way, but I don't want. There's a rule in America, at least in the U.S., North America. Sorry, it's, I don't know how you
It's
guys do
cool.
it, but I hate that. I hate that. It's just the only way to, like, U.S. United States Americans. Anyway,
It's cool.
but there's a rule that if you're in prison for a crime, you cannot benefit from the crime, you know,
Hmm.
and like you can't make money from the crime. So you write a book about the crime, you can't make money from it. And I think
Oh,
that's fair. Like, if you want to write the book and tell people good, but you can't make money off of it, I think that that's like, because raping someone is way worse than, it's the scale of badness is way more important than games
it's
to
crazy
me.
shit. I mean,
And
yeah,
so if I can like make it so that someone is less likely to go to drive to another state because they're making their car payments and do bad things or pay their rent, like, I don't want bad people to have power more than I care about any game, honestly. So if this stuff was true, then I would be the first one trying to cancel me. But I want people to care. Now, at a
yeah.
certain point, people are, they have to draw their own line, and I can't convince you. But I think my take is you and everyone else should care whether I did these things, because if I did, you shouldn't buy my shit, and if I didn't, then you should not buy the shit of the people who said I did. because they have like broken the law.
Damn.
And so far, that's what the court said. Like, I sued someone successfully. They had to publish an apology. They had to pay me. Like,
I have seen a couple of these, right? Like
yeah,
there's people who actually apologize to you and stuff, or at
yeah,
least apologize, what? Right?
yeah. I sued them. Like, and these are people. I started with people who had a long history. They know everything. They have all the screenshots of everything they say I ever did. So if I actually did anything wrong, they would have them. This dude, like one dude, Paul, like he's been harassing me and other creators since 2009 or 10 at least. Like
That's way back.
unquestionably. Like he is the everyone in the game industry knows him as the horrible moderator of this horrible forum, and he lies all the time. But no one sues anyone in the game industry because no one has any money, and so no one talks. And so it's like, oh, he could just do this, and he thinks he can do it. And so I was like, if this guy cannot prove I did a single fucking thing wrong in court, no one else can. Like, he has all the shit. Like, all he does is like look for terrible things that people do and try to write, like puts out some game that no one really cares out about aside from his circle of people who his piranhas. They're piranhas.
Yeah.
You have this fish, right? Piranha.
Yeah, yeah. Pirañas in Spanish. In Spanish is
Yeah, yeah.
pirañas.
Yeah, well, it's probably taken from Spanish. But anyway, yeah, they're piranhas. Like
Yeah.
he has a fan base of piranhas, and they care more about his attacks on people than about his work. And so they attack people all day, and he had to apologize and go, yeah, that wasn't true. I don't understand why these people thought they would get away with it. All they talk about is how I never let anything go, and I have evidence of everything. I'm always collecting evidence, and they thought, oh, I'll get away with this. Zach will just crawl it in a ball and die.
Yeah.
Like, no, like absolutely not. Like this isn't, because they will hurt everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they have serially hurt so many people. The vampire game, I don't know if you heard about Vampire 5th Edition.
Yeah,
It was
sure. We have it in the store and stuff.
Right. Paradox bought the license for Vampire,
Yeah,
right? So
remember that,
they were
yeah.
going to put out that 5th edition. And these people harassed them so long and so hard, and they created this fervor in the fan base about totally fake shit that they knew was false. Like, they accused Jewish people of being Nazis who were working on the game.
Oh, I
And
remember that one. Yeah, that totally
Yeah.
take them down. Like fifth edition just went like.
Yes, they did that. Like, these same piranhas took out like Vampire 5th Edition. Now they're trying to get Mike Merles, who is the head of D&D, fired.
Yeah.
Before that, they've targeted, like, and people are scared of them, And it's like, someone has to stand up and be like, you have to stop. But I did that for 10 years, and everyone's so bored of it. Everyone's bored of hearing me talk about it. And so when they're like, oh, Zach's wife doesn't like him now, they're like, finally, we can just shut up. Stop talking about this problem. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to shut up now because, you guys all fucking hate me and I don't like you either anymore. But it's real, and it's going to happen to everyone until people realize, if you want to be professional, you have to act like real people. Like, you have a problem with someone, you have to talk to them and not be a scared nerd who just deals with everything with jokes. Like, I told a better joke than you, so I won the argument. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
who
people should.
fucking adult?
Yeah, people should support like their favorite stuff. Like you
Yeah.
you can go online and talk about the things you like. You don't need to be scared of it. You need to support whatever the fuck you like. If you like Lamentation, that's cool. If you want more fifth edition, I mean whatever. You just go out there and talk about it. But people don't want to be related to you on this situation. I can understand that. I just got attacked on the morning and stuff, but
Yeah.
I really like your work, so
Thanks.
I'm gonna be here. So I'm gonna stay here and say, you know what? I like this. I support this. His work is what I care about him. Is That's cool. I mean, right now I'm knowing you and you're a very cool guy. Like, that's nice. That's nice because everyone on the internet just say like Zak Smith is an asshole and fuck him and whatever. But I never get to know you. I was planning on going to Gen Con just to like talk to you. Like, I'm gonna find this guy. I like his book. I'm gonna send him. You know what? flew fly. How you say it? Like flew.
Blue. That's right. You're
Yeah,
doing it exactly
I
right.
flew from Mexico here just to fucking talk to you. Okay, what's up? Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I really like the stuff you do and stuff, but we just meet in some weird conditions, cause
I'm sure I was at the desk going like, "Bye, LTFP, the best books in the world. You there, you sir, come over here." Like during my whole thing, like yeah, of
I
course.
was like,
Like, hi,
what?
hey, nice to meet you. Like
Yeah,
probably 10 seconds, right?
yeah.
You
Like
know,
we just meet like 10 seconds early or something like that.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean that's cool because I got like involved in this because you asked me, what? Hey, you can interview me, and I was like, me? You sure? Yeah, let's do it and stuff. So for me, it's been a good experience. I like the guy that I met because there's this telling on Spanish, like in Spanish you said jamás conoces a tus héroes porque van a ser una mierda. On English it goes like you never meet your heroes because they're poorly shit or something like that.
Yeah, it's the same thing in English, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
don't be your heroes. And it's
And
weird to think that someone in a role playing game world would be anyone's hero, but
no,
yeah.
I mean it's kind of like metaphoric, So
Oh my god. Oh my god. Greg Stafford. You know Greg Stafford? He did Pendragon.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and he did RuneQuest. At the last Gen Con that I was at, he came up to me and was like, "Can I get a picture with you?" That was that moment for me.
Damn.
Like
Yeah.
Greg, and I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "Do you want to come to the party afterwards?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm old. I won't go." And then like I think later that year he died, and I was
Oh
like,
wow.
"Holy!" But I was like that was like he invented some of the best coolest mechanics. He's like I feel like Pendragon is the one game that almost all indie role playing people can all be like, yeah, it's a good game. It's like the
Yeah.
godfather of games, and it was just just feel like that. Yeah, like but for to like honestly, okay, meeting people and they're nice is one thing. I just think how you treat people you like is the least important thing. The most important thing in a community, and you will have to deal with this if you really start conventions and all that,
Yeah.
is how do you deal with the people you don't like? And the first step is you approach them and say, I have a problem. There's a woman named Sarah Schulman who wrote a great book called Conflict is Not Abuse, where she talks about how like people have trouble, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm talking from LA, you're in Mexico City. Trouble is real. People have trouble. Like they
Real
a lot
trouble.
of mental health, they have mental health issues, or they have like real life problems of with like family members dying. They have people don't come to role playing because everything is great all the time. A lot of times, like the reason that I got reintroduced to role playing is because my wife was so sick. She couldn't leave the house very often.
Yeah.
And so people have problems and they need help and they need care and attention. And there's a button that you can press to get attention and care very fast and get people to, and that is to say, I'm being abused, I'm being, by this, like a person's hurting me. And that is very tempting, I think, for people who they are not getting the help they genuinely need on some level. And there's this button that hovers, and you're like, all you have to do is hurt this other person by pressing this button, and you will get people to immediately look at your problem and go, okay, I'm on your side because the other person's not in the room. And it can be very tempting. And I think especially when all the other people are anonymous words on a screen, to just press that button to everyone rather than being like, the line on the screen is the name of a person, and I'm going to be polite to them even though I don't like anything about them, or I'm going to answer their questions even though I don't like anything about them. Like, so many of the relationships that I formed in games were online were people who, if I had just looked at what they were posting, I would have been like, I don't want to deal with you. But how do you deal with the people you don't like is
I
the
mean,
most important question.
it's just like courtesy, right? Like education or something like that. I mean, it's basic stuff. Like,
It's maturity,
yeah,
it's, and I think, when I don't like someone and they've already done something shitty, I will be like, fuck them, they're an asshole, I fucking hate you. I don't care about maturity, but if that's once they've cut off contact.
yeah,
As long as someone's still willing to talk to you and answer your questions and deal with your problems as if they're real, don't be a shitty avoiding nerd. You know, like treat the people you disagree with as if it's a problem to be solved that you want solved, not ammunition to get your friends to have sympathy for you. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, totally. This is really interesting, but let's move on a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
so, Zach, okay, so you got this situation on you. How Zach Smith plans, or did you plan on going back on publishing RPG stuff? Because that's the first question that I got in my mind when you told me like interview me, and I was like, okay, how do you plan to come back? Are you coming back, or what's going on?
I'm right now. I'm putting out. I have all these like. Okay, I can show you. So these are like my notebooks of at home that I use to run my game.
Yep.
You know that I make for my players. So I'm putting out these notebooks in PDF form, like piece by piece. In that's Cube World, and there, I put them out when they can. I scan them and I make notes so you can understand my handwriting and stuff. And I'm putting those out. So if you want it, it's right there, right now. There's 20 of them so far, and I don't plan on stopping.
Oh my God,
Um,
they're 20 now.
yeah, there's 20.
I
I
got I
started.
got only two, so
Okay. Yeah.
and
Well,
they're real good, real stuff.
no, I
That's
mean,
nice.
it's thank you. But I also think if you got the early ones, I got better at all the, turning
Oh,
them in,
come on,
digitizing
really?
them as I go along because, when you first do it, it's like you scan it, you put it on Google
Yeah,
Docs, and the formatting is weird.
yeah,
But I'm getting more and more used to making it into easy to read. So
yeah.
I think number 20 looks a lot sharper than number one did.
Nice.
But
Is the goblin
basically,
ones? Is like the goblins?
the
Did
Goblin one is 19, and then
okay.
20 is I just did a couple like Jack Vance style wizard towers that I with like a Beholder knockoff called the Panopticon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did this one is I just put up, but that's 20. But basically, that's coming out, and I did with the same thing that I did with Demon City is I just started making it, and I figured sooner or later someone if they want to publish it, great. If not, it'll happen or it won't. Like, maybe I die and, people go to see Michelle's attic and she has these things and they go and then they publish it later. Like, I don't care. These are for my game at home. Like, these are for my friends. I'm making them anyway. So I'm just going to make them and do the thing. Like, this is what I would do anyway, and then put them out. As far as publishing in another way, it's up to you guys. Like, I don't make that decision. Fans make it. Fans have to be like, we really, really want this and put pressure on the same people who, everywhere. Like, all of this stuff happened to me because of fan pressure. Like, a vocal, honestly, because sales figures went up, right? It's a vocal minority. At least they went up in first. I mean, eventually they tail off because you don't get new fans if you're not whatever.
Yeah.
But the vocal minority of people complain to Gen Con, Drive Through RPG, and other places that have power. The OSR Reddit, the RPG Reddit, like important forums, important publishers. People complain, and those companies do not like complaints. So it's easier to just be like, we're not publishing this guy. We don't care about this guy who doesn't make them very much money. Like, I don't make Gen Con that much money. I make Gen Con way more fun because I throw better parties than everyone else. But and also, like, I don't know. Like, I always feel like, I don't know. Gen Con is fun if you make it fun. I always feel like everyone's not trying to make it fun. But anyway, but fans have to say, we really, really want this to, like, and they have to be vocal.
Yeah, they
Otherwise,
have to speak it out, right?
I'm just inviting my life to get worse by putting something out. Like, also, like, this is a separate thing. Demon City is my horror game that I've been working on for years, is coming out, like, whether I want it to or not. And so
Kickstarter
that's going
just
to be a
the Kickstarter just finished, right? Like they're producing it or something like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, it didn't just finish. It finished about a year or two ago, a year and a half or
Okay.
two. And the graphic designer has been working on it and making it like he's doing too good of a job, and he's just slow. Like, anyone who's familiar with my work from like years knows that I try to work with really good graphic designers because that's really important to the way I think of books. And they work really slow. And there's always a year of people writing to me going, "When is this coming out?" And I go, "It's in graphic design. It happened with Red and Pleasant Land. It happened with Maison
Okay,
Lanusse, etc."
I got a
So
question right now,
for these,
Zach.
coming out whether I want to or not.
Okay, so Demon City got launched before all this shit came to your
Yeah,
life. Okay,
yeah.
okay, and people
It got
still want your book, right? Like people still writing to you saying, "Hey, when is going to be done?" Or
people want everything. Like I said, someone paid $2,000 for a copy of Red and Pleasant Land this morning, right? They want stuff. Like there's lots of fans. They're just scared of other people online ruining their fucking lives if they talk about the work. But really, no, like I don't have a great reason to publish a physical book for a like just to more invite everyone to be harassed more. Like I I don't want that to happen to anyone. If there's a bunch of fans who are like, we're sick of this shit, and there's more, if there's as many good vocal people as there are bad vocal people at some point, then it becomes worth it to publish a physical book, even if I have to do it myself. But right now, it's just like no, it just hurts everyone, and these people they're being monsters to each other. It's even with if you subtract me out of it and you just look at how they're treating each other. So many of the people who attacked me have then themselves done things that and admitted to them. Like the guy who did Dungeon World, like was like he like Adam Coable,
yeah, remember
he
that
was
one?
so vocal in attacking me and being like, I just know using my psychic powers that you're a bad person. And I'm like, fuck you, fuck everything about you, fuck all your fans who give me shit. And then I was right about him. And it happened over and over.
Yeah.
Tyler Carpenter, Sean Patrick Fanon, Elizabeth Sampat, over and over, these people like the RPG Net moderator, Matt, what's his name? Like over and over, these people who have attacked me, who I said, this is a bad person, I'm right. It turns out to be right. And most of the people who are going against me, they're doing it on instinct. They're not doing it because of facts.
Yeah.
And their instincts are terrible. They trusted Adam Coble. Their instincts are not good. They're nerds with no social skills. Like they don't know how to evaluate whether someone has red flags. They're not good at this, and it's hurting everybody. And I'm just like I'm standing back and I'm watching. Okay, Kyle Chenye is now he's got in a brackets with
Oh,
some, and it's just
yeah.
like,
He just
and then now people are
apologized for
trying,
something.
now people are getting so it's Critical Role versus Watsy, and it's like, yeah, the piranhas will not stop
Yeah.
until they have eaten all the cows and each other.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
and
crazy.
you could easily stop this by just being like, you, piranha in charge. Here is the person that you have a problem with.
Just
Say in the same language, whatever that is, what your problem is to this person, and then you answer the person, and you guys have a conversation like you have had to have with your brother and your sister a million times growing up, when your parents go, you guys like stop. I don't know what you're arguing about. Like you hate, Super Mario Brothers and you love it, but you two, I'm locking you in the room until you like settle your differences like adults. But no one has the incentive to do that.
yeah.
It is way more fun to be like, look, I'm gonna trash like fuck Deadpool 3, it's the worst movie, and then people love you, and then you go up, the other one goes down, no problem gets solved at all.
Yeah.
At all. But you have now become more well known and you have fans, and it's monstrous. Like I don't see how an adult could see it as anything else. And of course, coming from me, a lot of people will ignore that message, but that's at the bottom of this, and it's so shitty. I have to sue people to make it stop. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
You
totally
know,
crazy. I mean, yeah.
I don't want to do that. Like nobody wants to be on the phone with lawyers like 18 hours a day. Nobody wants to be like combing through all these years of abuse. And nobody wants to do that. But it's like I don't have a choice. Like no one will have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So right now, the only products people can get from you is this cube world that you're uploading to your blog and stuff. That's cool. We got also how do you I forgot his name. The book you're kickstarting this
Demon City.
Demon City. Yeah, we got
Yeah.
Demon City coming out too. So you're planning like you're not planning on publishing anything with anyone because obviously everyone is real man and stuff. So you're gonna stay like this for a while, or
No, nothing is predictable. It's July right now, like during this month. You
okay?
know, in a week, something could happen in court that changes some important things. Like in 2 weeks, like all of this is like I just like day by day. Like a lot of the legal things that I have to do is you fill out a form and you pay a guy and you just wait. And they're like, when will I hear about this? Who knows? You know, um, and so this situation is unpredictable, and I'm just like, in the meantime, I have to do something, just to be busy, just to like, we're all, and the virus I don't know how it is in Mexico City, but in
Yeah.
LA it's terrible. So I literally have nothing to do but sit at my desk and make little Dungeons and Dragons things for my friends, and I might as well scan them and give to the fans who give a shit, like I'm gonna make it anyway, so my I Demon City's coming out, and that's actually a pretty big plan as plans go. Most people don't even have that much of a plan, right? I'm gonna have a beautiful hardcover book that has. It is very rarely do you get to see. You can see books in games that are very well put together, expensive hardbacks,
Yeah.
but they are not exactly what the people involved wanted. When you see Dungeons and Dragons on the shelf, that is Mike Merle's trying to figure out what other people want. He said that. He says, I'm an engineer. And
It's my
other
job,
people on
right?
the front, right? But it's very rarely you see a hardcover, fully illustrated book with hundreds of illustrations in full color on this level, where it's exactly what the person who made it wanted, no compromises. I've just yelled and now I'm hoarse. Rock and roll. Um,
Get a
so
drink. Get a drink. You can just like.
I have a drink. I have a daiquiri. Um, Thank you, ma'am. So basically, uh, you're going to see something that you haven't seen since the early 80s, which is a single beautifully put together hardcover book that is exactly what we did on purpose. And instead of a dice, it's going to use tarot cards.
Wow.
So you buy it's 1 through 10, right? So it's a horror game. I was like, because what I was thinking is, Call of Cthulhu has been the most popular horror game because Cthulhu, the Lovecraft mythos, is so powerful in people's heads. I wanted to make a horror game where you could do any horror. You could do Get Out, you could do Friday the 13th, you could do The Shining, you could do Night of the Living Dead.
Okay, so
But
this follows like your kind of word. Like this is the tools for you. You can do whatever the fuck horror you want with it.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
But I also knew that the reason Call of Cthulhu stuck in people's heads is because it had its own thing. Like Chill was a generic horror game, and it didn't have its own thing, and people kind of fell apart. And I was like, to me, the thing that holds the game together is the tarot card thing. Like the whole world is
Yeah.
these symbols, so it can describe, like, it works with any kind of horror. Like, so, and the tarot cards work in different ways, but basically there's 1 through 10. So that's a simple, like, it's like a D10 system, very close. But
Nice.
then instead of treasure, you get little things that affect your fate, like, oh, you've survived this menace, so now you have the Page of Cups, which is that card represents you. It's not a card collecting game. It's just like you write it on your sheet, like you have an
Okay.
advantage now that you can. It's like your fate has changed a little bit
Okay.
because it's like, how in like Halloween, how Jamie Lee Curtis and Mike Myers are like tied together,
Yeah, like their fate, like
Exactly. And so I was thinking about how horror works, which is like you don't really get stuff as treasure. You don't become richer and richer, but your fate changes. Like Scully and Mulder, they're in the X-Files, their fate changed. So I wanted to give a reward system that was like just not too much, not too much like you don't become super powerful, but it's interesting, And so by having the tarot cards as a background to the horror system, it's like you could do any kind of horror, but it's flexible, but it still has its own idea attached to it.
I got a question about it because
Yeah,
the the thing with horror, like a theme and stuff, is very, 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 very lethal because it's his core, you know. So
yeah,
many of the horror systems that I have played, they lack like this. You can't play many sessions like in a succession, you know, because
yeah.
your character is gonna get killed and stuff. So how do you deal with that? Like
I,
it
that
isn't that
yeah.
lethal, or
Well, I thought of it this way: it is lethal, but like other horror systems, you can go so insane that you can't be part of the system anymore, or you can die.
yeah.
But the way I thought of it is like a night. It's like the Walking Dead show.
Mhm.
It's a show. It keeps going, and so by at the end of the set, do you know? Are you familiar with Jeff Reent's Jeff's game blog, Party Like It's 999?
No,
His carousing table. It's
no,
for
but
Dungeons and Dragons.
it's a great name. I gotta say it, man.
Uh, it's for Dungeons and Dragons, and basically at the end of the session, you roll dice to spend your money drinking and partying, and it's dangerous. Like you might wake up next to sleeping with the succubus, or you might join a cult, or
That's
you
crazy.
might accidentally get a fortune. But it's a short roll at the end of the game, takes like 5 minutes, and you gamble. But then the next session, your character had something that happened to them. You can be like, oh, remember that time that you had to fight a giant crab because you rolled this, you drank too much. And I know that in horror and investigation fiction, the characters have a backstory. And so I made an advancement system where you have that roll at the end of the game where the characters, each one decides, what do you want to do in your downtime now that you've finished the adventure? So you can, and the idea is that whatever you do, you regain your calm. And
Okay.
so the riskier it is, the more chance that you will lose or gain calm. So let's say you're like way down at the bottom. Then you
Yeah.
can be like, okay, what I'm going to do in my spare time is I'm going to do drugs. And you're like, okay, you have a very high chance of getting calm points back because it'll calm you down right well, but you have a tiny chance of being completely fucked up for the next thing, and now you're an addict. And or you could be like, I'm going to watch TV. And it's like you have a slight chance of getting more calm, and you have a slight chance of becoming stupider. And so at the end of each session, you roll, and then in the next session, you have a group of investigators like on The Wire or NYPD Blue or X-Files that have a history of adventure together and a history of and you get more points if you do your activity with someone else. So if you can convince someone else to do heroin with you, or you convince someone else to watch TV with you, or convince someone else to read the book with you, then you get more points. And so you have develop this shared history while your character. So if you can survive, you get this little moment, and then so it becomes more like a TV show about these people. And then
Okay.
someone can die, but when you do die, you get a bonus for your next character. So you replace them, and if you've done well with the last one, then and so you can kind of change the cast. And so I call it the Hellboy problem. You read Hellboy, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, Hellboy keeps fighting horror, but after a while, it's not horror anymore. He's a superhero because he just beats everyone, right? Like,
Yeah.
vampire, I win. Giant caterpillar, I win. Ghouls, I win. And so eventually he's not, he's not horror anymore. So in order to solve that, I want to give them a real grounding in a sort of investigation procedural world.
That's
And
pretty cool.
hopefully that works out.
Yeah.
It's worked in playtests so far. And I think that people who I played with, James Urbaniak. He is like a voice actor in America, but he played with us. He hates games, but his wife plays with us, and so he was playing, and he was like, "This is great. This is really fun," because he got, it's like it. He knows how to pretend to be a TV reporter, that's like something he understands, So, hopefully, it's also nice to write a horror game because you can invite people who don't know anything about fantasy or weird fiction to write for you, and they will do something cool. Like my friend Linda Tirado, who she got shot in the eye as a
Oh yeah,
journalist.
yeah, yeah. I read all those tweets, and I was
Yeah,
like, wow, she just lost an eye, right? Like she
yeah,
lost it.
like one of these rubber bullets hit her in the eye. It exploded. So the
Wow.
cop shot her in the eye. She lost, but she's a reporter, right? So she knows all about this shit. And so she wrote about what it's like to work on a political campaign. And I was like, oh, like, so now you know, like, how do you break into the campaign office and steal money? How do you how's corruption work? And
Yeah.
so it's all about like, horror in the city, like, you know. So anyone who knows something that you could use in crime fiction might be useful in the game. And so I never could have come to Linda and be like, write some. Linda's played D&D with us, but I would never be like, Linda, write a Dungeons and Dragons scenario. But I
Yeah.
could totally be like, write a crime scenario. I think the simple question is, by overlapping horror with crime fiction,
Yeah.
you can create a protagonist or a main character that goes on and on and on. Because in crime, they go on and on and on.
Yeah.
So if you can play with that, like Sam Spade detectives, they're always keep fighting and keep doing things, you know?
For me, that was the problem with horror games. Like, I really like Call of Cthulhu. I got sixth edition, seventh edition, whatever, but I can't really find enjoyment on campaign because they all die all the time, and you make these new characters that go and get whatever the fuck information other characters that die, and it's not engaging. It sucks to create another character, in special if it's kind of like difficult and stuff. So I really don't like the part of the horror genre. Like, I don't enjoy that. It's cool for a one shot, that's cool, whatever, but if you want to hold a campaign, and it doesn't work that really well. But I really like that system that you just mentioned. It sounds pretty cool. It sounds like something you want to keep on going, and just have a campaign with it. That sounds
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, I feel like maybe the best thing is like, you know, you might lose one person,
Yeah,
but it will be, or two, but it would be fun to play the other
yeah,
characters who have lost those people in the next session. And
yeah,
then you'll lose maybe some of those. And then the new, you know, but it'll be fun to watch it go. You know, like, I don't know, because no one's ever played this game for 10 years yet.
yeah.
You know, people have played it for like maybe 2 years, but it's
It's been a
impossible to be
while
sure.
too.
But you have to try, you know? So,
Yeah, it sounds really fun. That is pretty cool. I really like that one. Um,
I hope it matches expectations, you know?
let's hope so.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we take that out. Okay. I was wondering if, like, another question that got to my mind when I was thinking of talking to you is, everyone knows how well you run your D&D games, but you got like any kind of formula, like, how do you run your own games on your house? Like, do you use hex crawling, or do you got like railroading? What is your favorite method to like run D&D?
I like to start small, tight, and then expand as the players become more, you know, experienced, you know?
Okay.
So, and the first day you wake up in jail, you know, or something like that. Like,
Okay.
well, you know, you don't know anything about the campaign, and you don't, you like, and so there's a small number of decisions to make, a small number of elements. And then as the game goes on, you have more and more choices and more expanded sandbox, you know, because I want to use all this stuff I make. Like, when you see something on the blog, I feel like I wasted my time if my players never get to use it.
Yeah.
And I have ideas about all this other shit. So I don't want to create things and then they don't get used. That's boring. And I also feel like a lot of bad material gets published because no one has any intention of using it. I
Oh
feel
wow.
really like, when I see creators are like not playing their own games, they're not playing things that they made and they've been paid a lot. I'm like I feel like maybe you're smart and you bring something to this, but I'm going to bring something you can never bring if I'm playing the game, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm playing it. But as a game master, like, I like start tight and then you let it loosen up as the players learn. The most thing I learned a lot from watching Jeff of Jeff's Game Blog run a game. He said he ran a game where you start as a halfling in a stew pot of an ogre. You know, like you're in the pot. So the
Yeah.
three of you are in the pot. The ogre goes to another room, and you get out. You can't see in the dark. It's dark. You have no weapons. And he ran a simple game in this dungeon, but by really paying attention to, you can't see unless you find a torch. And then when you find a torch, you can see 30 feet. And you have no weapon unless you find one. And there, you only have what you find in this cave. Just by paying real close attention to really simple elements, he was always running these super fun games. Like
Wow.
like you look at the scenario on paper and it's like a cave with some monsters. But you listen to the way he plays it, he's every inch of that, he really squeezes it until it's, and I learned so much from that. Just like focus on the basic problems, and then the players are solving problems in interesting ways, and it gets, and then you build from there, and eventually they're rich and they have introversion, they can see in the dark and they cast spells, and then they're ready to be creative with some more things. And I don't know, it's always worked, like
Yeah.
it works with the players that I have.
But that is the cool thing about D&D. At least since I get to know the OSR and all these kind of gaming style, uh, I always think about D&D like like problem solving, because
Mhm.
many gamers here in Mexico, they play D&D like 5th edition, like they were playing some kind of MMORPG or something like that. Like just like you get a room, you enter, you kill shit. You go to another room and you kill some other stuff. I got to
Yeah.
level up and just power gaming and stuff like that. So I really enjoy like just problem zombie. It can be like really simple things like you just mentioned, like Jeff stuff. Like okay, you need to find a weapon. You need to do all these, solve all these problems. Like I really like that kind of style. And I know that you got like a big impact on the OSR community. You keep playing like this, or what kind of system did you use for your own campaign?
I use depending. Sometimes I use fifth edition, a modified old school version of fifth edition, because I like the saving throws, and I like saving throws. It's like old school saving throws are so stupid. Like I have to save versus death ray in order to not fall
Like
in a box.
save or die or something like that,
It's
or
no, it's just the titles. Like it's like dragon breath, and you're saving
mm,
versus dragon breath to
mm.
avoid a cannonball. It's
Yeah,
like
that's kind of stupid.
it's
Yeah.
hard. It's not explainable to people. So I like the new school saving throws, and I like how for a new player, you're like, well, I want to make this person, and then okay, you can. But I like the old school, like it's relatively simple. It's not it's so I have a compromise system that I've created. That's somebody made their own version of it, or made like a PDF of it and called it the Zak hack. And it has like this funny picture of like my head, like with a skull, and it's all pink, and it's like I want to be like, I love the person who made this. It's very special, but I didn't do this myself.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I didn't make
That's
myself
nice to
as a
know.
skull. But it's like, but he made it, and it's like it works. Like that's a pretty good one. And I also sometimes just use straight LOTFP because I've written so many adventures for Lamentations, which
Yeah.
if you're people watching don't know, it's a more horror version of basic D&D,
Yep.
80s D&D. But basically, I've written so many things for that company that I have a lot of things that are just already in those hits, and it's good for a quick game that I'm playing with people who are introducing for the first time. I don't want to do all skills and stuff. I just be like, you're a dwarf. So I do one or the other, and yeah, so that's usually what I do. But the thing to remember is like I'm running the same campaign that I've been running since 2009.
Wow. That's
All the same
cool.
people, right?
Yeah.
And so what I gotta have 5 new people, but they're all in that world it's from then, and so it's I can't change things that much, for D&D anyway, because it's the same universe. Like, if Kimberly Kane killed somebody in 2015, they're still dead. Like
Yeah.
if there's like a
And they're
dragon
staying
corpse
like
here, and
that,
everyone's like,
right?
yeah. And that's fun because I think players like when players, a player will be like, why do goblins talk backwards? And I'll be like, oh, well, this is not part of the adventure. I just go, oh, they talk backwards because goblins, in the first Goblin War, where goblins they stole the moon and sailed it away as a boat. They had to fight the elves, and they learned to never tell the truth to elves. And so they never, and so they, the easiest way for a regular goblin to lie to an elf is just say the opposite of true things. So if you say, "How are you doing, goblin?" they go, "Everything is awful. It's
Oh
terrible to
wow.
me." They talk backwards. And the person who asked didn't expect that big of an answer,
I, I I
And
didn't
so,
expect it to. So
right, where they go like, "Why is this knife made of a walrus bone?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, 2 years ago," and you just, it doesn't put pressure on them, but it's like they're like, "Oh, there's more here than I expected," and that makes the whole thing. I think fantasy games, like for specifically medieval, like like is about being in another place. And so when you can really tell people details that just, out of nowhere, they feel so much in that place that it's special on its own in a way that just be knowing that it was made up 3 seconds ago is a different kind of special. That's like, I'm impressed by your improv skills, where, like, so it's its own thing.
yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I got another question. It just hit my mind right now. Like, I got a couple of products that I really like to have near my gaming table. Like, I'm the game master always on my group. I got
I'm sorry.
like four. No, it's cool. Right now I love it. I starting not so much, but right now I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking right now that I always love to have Bornheim the Complete City Kit next to me. I really love to have ready ref sheets, the Judges Guild one. That is
Yeah.
mini tables and stuff.
Yeah.
And whatever another book I'm using right now, like right now I'm running some kind of like Nordic stuff and on snow and shit. So I got frostbitten and mutilated too, because there's plenty of good ideas there. So what kind of products do you use, Zach? Like, do you got anything like this? Like, you like some products so much that you have it on your table with you all the time?
I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but I have had so many things have been ruined for me by the people who wrote them.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, like I used to have things that would sit next to me that were from people I knew that were like friendly with me on the internet, and I'm like, I don't ever want to look at that again. So it's all my own stuff. I had to do this thing where like I have tables that are crowdsourced, so it's like 200 people in the game industry, all contributed to a table, and we all like, it was wonderful to be just like at night be like, I need 500 witch traits. Go to sleep. I wake up 500 witch traits, and they're all good, and nobody's trolling, and no one's being a dick because you kind of were, the community was good. And then now you have a table, and I would like, oh, put it and paste, and then I make a book out of all this stuff, and it's like all these people. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that guy fucking was a dick to me. That person I have to sue. Like, and it's like, I can't do that. So I literally have to do all my own shit. I have some old RPG. I can't even look at WotC stuff anymore because they have like totally dicked over me and a bunch of other people. Um, so yeah, I kind of have to. It's like if it, like it's either from the mid '80s or I wrote it. And
Damn.
it's not because I'm the greatest in the world. It's just because I can't. In the middle of having fun, I don't want to see fucking Patrick Stewart's name. You know, except on Maze of the Blue Medusa, I've made my peace with that because I'm making money off of it and he's not. But other than that, I don't want to see them.
Man, I'm really sorry. I don't know if I. Let's just leave it like that.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it does mean I have to make a lot of stuff,
Yeah, I mean, on the bright side,
and
right?
then you guys can buy it, so everybody wins.
It's a
I guess
win-win.
yeah.
Yeah, when you make stuff like this, really happened to me a lot. Like, I got this cool idea. I just write it down, this fucking hex or whatever, on some fucking dungeon or something like that. I really find it really hard to like incorporate it on my current adventure, because maybe they're just exploring some northern land with snow and stuff, and I want to introduce I don't know. Whatever. Something different, like maybe a
If
desert.
you make a random cave table, they'll be like, let's go to the city every time, right?
Yeah. How do you
Uh,
introduce all your work to your play? Like,
you have to, I mean, and this is, you have to have, I mean, I'm in a way like I can do this. I can just do it all the time, spend a lot of time, but you have to just, it will come up later. You just have to be like,
but I
we,
hate that,
we don't.
because you
Well, here's
got
the
your
thing.
material
Honestly,
here.
I think a lot of the indie games, like the story game stuff, is exactly for that reason. They don't want to make a D100 table that never gets used, and you can understand it, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
not in that position. Like I can make a D100 table, and then that doesn't get used, and then I sell it, and then someone buys it, and then 3 years later it gets used. Like that can happen, and so I can see why people would be like, "That's not a good approach. Like you're putting in so much effort." Um, but you have to kind of make your peace with it, like, or buy someone else's, or develop a good community of people who you can trade stuff. That was one reason that like Secret Santa Corps was a thing where, like, I don't know if you guys have Secret Santa in
Yeah,
Mexico.
yeah, we got
Okay.
it.
So the idea of Secret Santa Corps was you would say what you wish you had, trade it around, and someone else would make it for you. So you didn't lose. So you're not going to use the thing that you make, but someone will use it somewhere, and it was like this idea of like a community of like, you just have to be like, okay, it's a broad world and there's going to be toys. But I also think that I realized, as you make these little toys that never get used, you've made a whole coherent world that makes sense.
Yeah,
The more things you make, the more sense it makes in your head, which means even if you're not using that toy, you're like, oh, you know what? There's two kinds of dwarves. There's the freak dwarves and there's the northern dwarves. And even though it doesn't come up again, like, I know it. And
yeah,
when I have to improvise a new dwarf, I can talk to my players because I've already had to think about it. And I will not say what a lot of people would say and be a dickhead and be like, you have to do this to be a good dungeon master. You don't. But I think that effort, that it's like no reading is ever wasted. You read a good book,
yeah,
it's always important to you. I think, no, if you really are sure that you're going to be playing in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you like your friends and you enjoy having that time with them, none of the effort that you put into thinking about any game is wasted, because sooner or later it
it will come
will
out, right?
it will matter. You'll have thought of something that does matter, and you'll have some tables you never used, but you will have spent that time thinking and you had fun, and then it shows in what comes out late, what you deal with later.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess that's pretty much it for today. We touched already way too many topics. You say it like that, right?
Yeah, touch on many topics. That's a common thing to say in English. Yeah.
And I'm really happy to have you here, Zach. Hope
Thank
everyone's
you.
enjoy it. I really apologize again for my English. It isn't that good. I'm
No,
sorry.
I mean, listen, no one would know. Like, if you told me you were broadcasting from Los Angeles and you just had an accent, like, I believe you. Like, your English is really good.
Thank you.
Way better than my Spanish. En mi casa somos nueve, muy felices, nunca. Like, that's all I know.
That's pretty cool, Zach. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope everyone who watch it have a good time with it and learn something from it. And if I have to say something before we finish this episode of Roleplay Second, is if you like something, stand for it. Talk about it. Don't be afraid. I know this is going to be very controversial. Very controversial. How you say it? How you say it? How you pronounce it?
Controversial. Yeah.
Controversial. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It needs to be done, and I'm glad that I'm the person who done it. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Anything you want to say, Zach, before we go?
Yeah. If you don't like something, think about why and talk to the person who made it, because they're a person, you know, and they might be a dick to you, and then you can be like, that guy's a dick. But start by talking to them.
Are you? Um, where people can actually like find you? Where are you talking? In what kind of group, or is it Reddit? Is it like
I mean,
Facebook or
the easiest way to get to me is my blog. I answer
okay,
every question. I always look at,
okay,
if you post a comment, I will answer. D&D with pornstars.blogspot.com.
there you go.
Sage Latora from Dungeon World works for Google, and Shannon Appelkline of RPGNet has friends at Google, and he hates my blog, and he has said that he used his connections at Google to bury some of the posts about him. So it's
Wow,
you may have to Google a little harder than normal to find D&D with porn stars, but it's there.
wow.
And I'm on Twitter at I hit it with my axe.
I will I
IHITWITHMI.
will I will
Also, if
post
you're
everything on the description of this video
yeah.
so you can
So yeah, I
actually.
mean, if they're following you on Twitter, then they can see me. If they talk to me on Twitter, they have to answer every question I ask, and I have to answer every question they ask, and they have to not call and do name calling. But I will engage. You could ask me the most fucked up thing in the world as long as you don't name call, and I will answer. And I will expect you to answer. So I will be like, "Did you fuck your mother?" And then you have to
Whoa.
say yes or no. And but I will talk to you, like, and I think that that's the way you have to be.
Hey,
A lot of people disagree, but yeah.
before we go, I was remembering right now that in many of your books, you actually put some stuff like, oh, if you want to talk about games all day or play online at Zak Smith, uh, in this moment we got Google Plus. Right now we don't have it, but
Oh yeah.
I can't believe how people talk about you if you actually put this on your books. Like, you know what, come hang out with me. And I just can't believe how somebody will be a dick if he's telling you like, come, add me, come hang out, let's play some
Well,
games.
here is what they would say. Here's what they would say, and I'm trying to represent a point of view that is not my own. Okay. What they would say is that this is all a scheme that I have used to pretend to be a nice person. If they see this interview and I seem like I'm a nice person, it's if I'm like a dick, then they're like, oh, he's a dick. If I am nice, then it is a scheme because I'm a psychopath, like
Whoa.
Hannibal Lecter. I'm secretly trying to invite people with candy into my lair so I can kill them, turn them into gingerbread people. And most nerds are scared of being turned into gingerbread people because a lot of their personal relationships have kind of been shitty. Like they are scared of people, and it's I think like it's not a joke to say that, okay, back in the day in the 1980s, it was like a nerd. This is the worst thing you could be. Oh, you're a nerd. You're a nerd. It's terrible, right?
Dude,
Right?
I have to hide to actually play Dungeons and Dragons when I was a teenager. Like
Right?
my
Okay.
friends can't fucking know that I play Dungeons and Dragons, and
Right.
it
And then
sucked.
then the internet happened and everyone is playing video games and watching Game of Thrones and it's okay to be a nerd. Everyone's a nerd, right?
It's even
But there
cool.
was right? But there's this stereotype in the 80s about nerds, which is true, and I learned it in the end, which is many people who have been pushed into being, by their technical intelligence, been pushed by capitalism into those kind of jobs, become a nerd, they become socially withdrawn, and they are scared of people. They are cowardly on some level. Like they are they are really scared of the physical world. They're scared of, and this extends to mentally, they're scared of, like when I am arguing with my wife on the fucking internet, it's all these details of my personal life. Like I fly to Berlin and someone's doing drugs and they're saying, this is all scary. They don't want to think about how fucked up, they don't want to think about someone else's fucked up life with like,
Yeah.
this person is bleeding and pissing and this person is coming and they're like, this is a frightening world to them. And that's still true. Like all of the progress of like nerds used to be this person and now they're this person. There is a core of truth in the stereotype of nerds is they're very afraid of interpersonal scariness. And many times because they've experienced it. Some of them have had like alcoholic parents Or they have had people who's like, I don't want you to be a nerd. You should go out and join the fucking army. And they've had a difficult life. And so they really have good reasons to be scared of interaction. And they've found their home on the internet. So when someone's like, hey, come play with me, like come hang out, like it's no problem, that's threatening. Like I say, come have a beer, it's gonna be awesome. It's threatening to them because they're like, you're the kind of people that hurt me, you know?
I can
And
get
I
that.
think
Yeah.
you have to respect people's reasons for doing not respectable things, and you have to call them on what they did wrong, not on being themselves. You can say, you are scared, and that's you, but you have done something wrong, and you have to be responsible for that. So you can be a scared person, a scared nerd in the world, but you still have to be responsible to other people. Oh, you can't hear me? Check my mic. How do I do it? Speakers, microphone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hold on. I have an idea. Uno second.
Oh, are we still online? Let me check this.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hola.
Okay,
Hello?
okay, okay. Let me check something out real fast.
Can you hear me?
Really, really low. Check my settings.
It might be your settings. It'd be funny if everyone watching can totally hear us both and you're like, I can't hear you. Or maybe
Let's
I spilled my
see.
drink on something.
Okay. Talk to me, Zach, please.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hola.
no, I can hear
Hello?
you.
Hello?
I guess we're gonna finish this now because we got trouble and
Okay.
whatever. We
Sure.
just like uh said whatever we have to say when we're saying goodbye and stuff. We're almost done here. Yeah, that's right, Zach. It's okay. So I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of Roll Per Second. No, it's cool. Thank you so much for coming, Zach. And there you go, guys. Zak Smith talking for a very long time. He was in like online and stuff. So there you have it. You can subscribe to the channel, whatever. Leave a comment or something. I'll be reading. And if you go to the to Zach's blog, he can answer whatever the fuck you want. So that's cool. That's pretty cool. And that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for coming, Zach. That's it, Miss Irving Morales. See you in another episode.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Okay, let me check.